The night was dark and silent. Suddenly, a bright light flashed across the sky like a falling star. It wasn't a star. It was a small alien ship, spinning out of control, heading straight for Earth. Kirill sat inside, her hands shaking, her body bleeding. She had escaped the enemy fleet, but her ship was badly damaged. Her mission was simple: stay alive and stay hidden. She pressed a button on the screen, whispering, "Hide my signal, they can't find me." The ship crashed deep into a forest. Trees snapped like sticks, the ground shook, birds flew away, and fire lit up the night. Kirill crawled out of the burning wreckage, her silver skin bruised. Her long dark hair was covered in dust and blood. She looked around, breathing hard. This world was strange, quiet, and cold. She grabbed a small alien knife from her belt and stumbled into the woods. Her vision was blurry, her legs weak, but she kept moving. Not far from there, a man named James was sitting in a wooden cabin. He lived alone in the forest, away from cities. He liked peace, nature, and quiet nights. But that night was not quiet. James heard the loud crash and saw the red light in the sky. His dog barked, but James told him to stay. He grabbed a flashlight and a backpack and ran into the woods. He followed the smoke, the fire, and the strange glowing trail on the ground. He thought maybe a plane crashed, or a meteor. But then he saw her. Kirill was lying between two trees, breathing fast. Her skin had a soft silver glow, and her blood was light blue. James stopped, his heart pounding. She pointed the knife at him, her hands shaking. "I'm not here to hurt you," James said slowly. Kirill looked at him, her eyes full of pain and fear. Then she fell unconscious. James rushed to her side, checked her pulse. He had no idea who or what she was, but he couldn't leave her there. He lifted her carefully and carried her back to the cabin inside. He laid her on the bed and cleaned her wounds. He used his first aid kit, warm water, and blankets. As he removed a piece of her armor, he saw strange symbols glowing on her skin. She wasn't human, but she looked human. James sat near her, watching her breathe. He didn't know if she was dangerous, but something told him she needed help. Hours passed, and Kirill woke up. She opened her eyes slowly and saw a wooden ceiling. Then she saw James sitting nearby, looking at her carefully. "You're safe," he said. "You were hurt. I brought you here." Kirill tried to sit up, but winced in pain. She looked around, confused. "You helped me," she whispered, her voice soft and strange. James nodded. "I don't know who you are, but you needed help." Kirill touched her side, where the wound was. "You shouldn't have helped me," she said. "They'll come for me, and now they'll come for you too." James frowned. "Who's coming?" Kirill closed her eyes, remembering the war, the escape, and the chase. "They call me a traitor," she said. "I ran from my world, from my people." Suddenly, a small device in her belt lit up. A red light blinked, and a strange voice spoke in an alien language. Kirill grabbed the device, her hands shaking. "They found me," she whispered. Her face turned pale. "They tracked my escape pod." James stood up, worried. "Who found you? What's going on?" Kirill looked at him, fear in her eyes. "They will not understand you," she said. "They will see you as a threat." She stood up slowly, ignoring the pain. "I must leave. I have to go before they arrive." James blocked the door. "Wait, you can't even walk properly." Kirill looked at him, surprised. "Why do you care? I'm not even from your world." James paused, then said, "Because helping someone in need shouldn't depend on where they're from." Kirill stared at him, unsure how to respond. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not even on her own planet. Outside the cabin, something moved in the sky. A silent drone flew above the trees, scanning the area. Its red lights blinked, and it sent a signal to a ship hiding in Earth's orbit. A robotic voice echoed inside the alien ship. "Target located. Sending recovery team." Back in the cabin, Kirill whispered to herself, "I didn't come here to find him." She looked at James again. "But maybe I was meant to." *. The forest was quiet again, But inside James's cabin, nothing felt normal. Kirill stood by the window, watching the sky like it was her enemy. James sat nearby, holding a hot cup of coffee, watching her closely. "You haven't said much," James spoke calmly. Kirill turned slowly, her silver eyes glowing in the low light. "I don't talk much to strangers," she said. "Especially not ones from another species," James smirked. "That makes two of us." A strange silence followed. Outside, the trees moved gently with the wind, but Kirill's mind was storming with worry. She looked around the cabin, wooden walls, human tools, simple objects, primitive but warm. Her world had nothing like this. Everything in her life was cold, perfect, and controlled. James stood up and walked to her side. "Look, I don't know what kind of danger you're in," he said, "but you saved my dog from that fire, and that makes you more than just a visitor to me." Kirill looked at him, surprised. "You think saving a dog means I'm good?" James nodded. "Sometimes how you treat the smallest life says the most." Kirill lowered her gaze, thinking deeply. "I never had a dog," she whispered. "I was trained as a warrior, not a friend." That night she sat by the fire. James gave her a thick sweater, which hung loosely on her shoulders. She looked awkward in it, but oddly peaceful. He brought out an old notebook and a pencil. "This," he said, "is how I talk to the world when I don't want to speak." Kirill took the pencil carefully. "What is this made of?" she asked. "Wood." James smiled. "From a tree." Kirill looked at it like it was a piece of alien tech. She wrote one word, "home," then looked up at James and said, "I don't have one anymore." The fire crackled softly. James nodded slowly. "Maybe Earth can be one." She didn't reply, but she didn't look away either. Over the next few days, they learned from each other. James showed her how to cook eggs, how to chop wood, how to laugh. Kirill showed him her alien wristband, one that could create a holographic map of stars. "This is where I'm from," she said, pointing at a glowing dot. "And this," she added, pointing to another light, "is where I was supposed to be married." James blinked. "Married?" Kirill nodded slowly. "I was chosen to marry the son of our warlord," she said, "to create peace between tribes. But he was cruel, and I refused. So they hunted you," James said. "Yes," Kirill answered. "Because in my world, a woman has duty, not freedom." James stood silently, looking at her. "You made your choice," he said. "That takes courage." Kirill tilted her head. "On my planet, they call that weakness," James smiled. "Then your planet's wrong." That night, a storm hit the forest. Rain slammed against the roof. Thunder growled like an angry god. Kirill couldn't sleep, her mind full of old fears. She walked into the living room and found James reading an old book. He looked up. "Can't sleep," she nodded, then sat beside him. "I keep thinking they'll find me," she whispered. "They won't stop." James put down the book. "Then we won't stop either," he said. "We'll fight back if we have to." Kirill looked at him with confusion and something else, hope. "You say we like you're part of this." "I am now," James said. "You're not alone." Just then, her wristband blinked red. She tapped it, and a voice came through, crackling and coded. "Incoming signal from Sector Vora, scanning Earth frequency." Kirill face went pale. "It's them," she said. "They're searching for my DNA signature." James looked at the hologram. "Can they find you here?" She shook her head. "Not yet, but if I use any alien tech, they will." "Then don't," James said. "Use Earth's tech instead." Kirill looked confused. "What tech?" "You use firewood and books," James smiled. "Sometimes the old ways are harder to trace." Kirill laughed for the first time. It was soft, unsure, but real. She looked at James with curious eyes. "You're not as primitive as I thought," she said. James laughed. "And you're not as scary as you looked." Their eyes met for a moment, then Kirill turned away, embarrassed. But a strange feeling began to grow in her chest, something she didn't understand. The next morning, James found Kirill outside. She was standing barefoot in the grass, face tilted toward the sun. "This planet," she said quietly. Feels alive, it is, James replied. So are you. She turned to him and whispered, I think I'm starting to like it here. But far above Earth, in the dark of space, a massive ship slowly activated its main sensors. A voice echoed inside the control room. Target is stable, prepare extraction team. The morning sky was golden, soft clouds floating like feathers. Carell stood at the edge of the forest, staring at the trees. Her hand rested on her stomach. A strange feeling inside her, a rhythm that wasn't just hers. A heartbeat. James walked over, holding a cup of tea. You've been out here since dawn, he said. Carell looked at him, her face unreadable. I feel strange, she whispered. Like something is changing inside me. James raised an eyebrow. Is it your wound? No, she said. It's something new. She touched her chest, then her stomach. I've seen this before, in training. In medical scans, she said softly. I think I'm pregnant. James froze. He opened his mouth to speak but said nothing. The birds chirped in the distance, as if mocking the silence between them. Pregnant, he finally said. But how? Carell looked away, ashamed. I don't know how your biology works, but mine adapts fast. James took a deep breath. They had grown close, yes, emotionally, mentally, even physically, but this was something else. A child not just of two people, but of two worlds. Carell looked into his eyes. If they find out, they'll take the child, she said. They'll call it a threat, and they'll call you something worse. James looked down at the ground, then back at her. So what do we do? Carell's voice shook. We run, or we fight, or we hide, James nodded. Then we do all three. That night, Carell activated her wristband one last time. She sent a coded message to an old friend, someone who still believed in her. Code Sanctuary. She whispered, hybrid confirmed, needs safe route. The response came back in seconds. Impossible. Council watching every sector. James stood nearby, listening. They really don't want this baby, do they? Carell shook her head. They don't fear the child's power. They fear its meaning. James stepped closer. You mean peace, she nodded. My people and yours. Never shared anything like this before. Suddenly, the cabin lights flickered. Carell grabbed her blade. James grabbed his axe. A dark humming sound moved outside the cabin. Something was scanning the area, moving just above the treetops. Hide, she said, pushing James behind a wooden wall. Carell stepped out the door, eyes sharp, back straight. A silver orb floated in the air, blinking red lights. Carell of House Vale, the orb said. You are charged with treason. She didn't flinch. You sent your machines all the way to Earth to tell me that you will surrender the hybrid. The orb replied, or face planetary strike. Behind her, James stepped out. He stared at the orb without fear. You'll have to go through both of us, he said. The orb scanned him quickly. Primitive life form, it said coldly. Emotionally unstable, unpredictable. Carell smiled. Exactly, with one quick move. She threw a small, MP spike into the air. The orb sparked, glitched, and crashed into the trees. James looked at her, impressed. You really are something else. Carell turned to him. So are you. That night, they packed supplies, food, tools, alien tech hidden inside human gear. Carell wrote something in her notebook. If I don't return, protect him. James saw it. You don't plan to come back. I plan to protect both of you, she said. Even if it costs me everything. But deep inside, her heart burned. She didn't want to leave. For the first time in her life, she felt loved. Not for duty or bloodline, but for being herself. James touched her shoulder. Whatever happens, I'm with you. They left the cabin just before sunrise, heading toward the mountains where no scanner could track them. Carell moved slower now, her hand often resting over her stomach. Life was growing inside her, a future, a hope, a symbol of something bigger. High above Earth, her old commander stared at the broken feed. The human must be destroyed, he growled. But the child? We need it alive. Back on Earth, Kirill and James reached a cave in the mountains. Safe for now, but time was running out. Kirill sat beside James, resting her head on his shoulder. I never thought I'd find peace on a wild planet, she whispered. James smiled. I never thought I'd fall for a space fugitive. She laughed quietly, then looked up at him with tired, honest eyes. Whatever happens next, promise me one thing. Anything, James said. Don't let them call you a savage, she whispered. Because you've shown me what true strength really is. Asterisk. The stars above the mountain cave were quiet. But peace never lasts long in a hunted world. Kirill woke in the middle of the night. Clutching her stomach, her breath was short, her skin pale, her heart heavy. It's time, she said softly. James sat up quickly, panic in his eyes. Are you okay? Is it the baby? No, she whispered. It's the recall signal. Her wristband was glowing green, pulsing slowly. It's a forced summon, she said. They've locked onto me, and they're pulling me home. James grabbed her arm. Can we stop it? Kirill shook her head. It's royal command. It overrides everything. Before either of them could act, the light engulfed them. A flash of white, a roar of energy, and the mountain disappeared. When they opened their eyes again, they were no longer on Earth. They stood in a chamber made of crystal and silver. Floating rings of data surrounded them, scanning their DNA. Guards in gold armor aimed weapons at James. Kirill stepped forward, raising her hands. Don't touch him, she said sharply. He's under my protection. From across the room, two tall figures walked in. Kirill's parents, Empress Valera and Commander Vorn. Her mother's face was cold like ice. Her father's face like steel. Kirill, the Empress said. You shame your bloodline. Commander Vorn stepped forward. And who is this? Savage. James stepped up, fists clenched. I have a name, he said. It's James, the guards hissed, stepping closer. Kirill blocked them. He saved me, he cared for me, and he stood beside me when no one else did. You bonded. With a primitive, her mother said with disgust. I didn't bond, Kirill said. I chose. Her father's voice thundered. You were meant to marry into the Karshik dynasty. Form peace through power. You were not meant to fall in love with a dirt dweller. Kirill looked straight at him. And what has that peace through power brought us? Dead cities, she said. Broken alliances and children raised for war. The Empress narrowed her eyes. There is a child, she said. Slowly, inside you, Kirill nodded. James held her hand tightly. The Empress stepped back. Looking disturbed, Commander Vorn raised his voice. That abomination cannot live, he said. It will break the order of blood. Kirill pulled James behind her. You'll have to go through me first, she said. Then, to everyone's surprise, the Empress lifted her hand. Enough, she said. Let the human speak. The room fell silent. James looked at her. Surprised, she nodded, so he stepped forward, standing in front of the royal court. I'm not here to destroy your world, he said. I didn't plan for this, any of it. But I saved her because it was the right thing to do. I stood by her because she deserved freedom. And now there's a child, he said, not just ours, but yours too. A piece of both worlds. One council member stood and scoffed. Words from a species that still burns wood and eats meat. James smiled. We also bleed, dream, and protect those we love. The Empress sat quietly. Watching him, Commander Vorn looked ready to explode. This is madness, he said. That thing is not one of us. James turned to him. Maybe not, he said. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it's time something new begins. Kirill stepped beside him again. I didn't run from my people, she said. I ran from your rules. The Empress stood slowly, her eyes on Kirill, then on James. I see no weakness in this man, she said. But the council must decide. The doors opened, and more council members entered, alien judges in dark robes, their faces hidden by glowing masks. One spoke, The hybrid will be tested. The human will be judged. And Kirill, the voice added, will face the consequence of rebellion. Kirill held her stomach tightly. James stood beside her, unmoving. I'm not afraid, he said. Kirill whispered. You should be. The Empress turned her back. Let them be taken to the chambers. She said, prepare the trial. As guards surrounded them, James whispered to Kirill, we'll get through this. Kirill looked at him, eyes filled with both fear and fire. Or we'll burn their empire down trying. The trial chamber was not a courtroom. It was an arena, carved from black stone and lit by a sun that never set. Tall alien spires stood like watching giants. Kirill stood in the royal box, her hands tied in glowing chains. Below, James stood. Alone in the sand, he wore a thin suit of alien armor, unfamiliar and cold. But his eyes were sharp, his heart steady. A voice echoed from the sky. This trial shall test the human's honor, mind, and courage. If he fails, he will be destroyed. If he succeeds, the voice paused, he will remain unworthy. Kirill shouted from above, this isn't justice, it's a death show. But no one listened. James looked up at her and smiled. Don't worry, he said. I've played worse games with drunk rednecks. The first challenge began. A gate opened, and out came a beast 12 feet tall. 4 arms, 2 heads. It roared like thunder, smashing the ground with molten claws. James didn't run. He circled the creature, watching its movement. The aliens in the audience laughed. He doesn't even have a plasma blade, one mocked. But James had something better. He grabbed a handful of sand and tossed it at the beast's eyes. It roared in pain, swinging wildly. Then James ran up its arm, jumped to its back, and stabbed its neck with a small broken spike. It fell, crashing into the ground. Silence, then murmurs, then applause. Kirill smiled with pride. Her father, Commander Vorn, narrowed his eyes. He got lucky, he grunted. The second trial began. This time, it was a mental challenge. James stood in a dark room surrounded by holographic illusions. Each one showed a moment from Kirill's memories. Pain, fear, regret, loneliness. A voice whispered, to win, he must choose which memory to destroy. James stood still, watching them all. Then he whispered, I won't erase anything. The room shook. Repeat. The I voice said. I said no. James growled. Her pain made her strong. If you think love means deleting someone's past, you don't understand love at all. The illusions faded. The test ended. The council watched, silent and stunned. Kirill's mother, the Empress, leaned forward. This human, he speaks like a warrior. The third and final challenge was honor. James was brought before a sacred flame. A warrior priest handed him a golden blade. To pass, the priest said, you must strike down your enemy. A figure walked into the chamber, an alien prisoner, wounded and chained. This one served the warlord who hunted Kirill, the priest explained. Now he is yours to kill. James looked at the man. The alien was half-conscious, defeated, and broken. Kirill shouted from above, this isn't honor, it's cruelty. James stared at the blade. He held it high, then dropped it to the floor. No, he said. Honor isn't about killing someone weaker than you. It's about knowing when to stop. The chamber was silent again. The alien prisoner looked up in shock. No one had ever spared him before. The priest stepped back. Then the trial is complete. James stood proud, covered in dust, bruised, but alive and whole. Ran to him. The guards unable to stop her. She threw her arms around him. You passed, she whispered. He laughed softly. I just acted like a decent human. The council gathered. Voices whispered across the high seats. Then the Empress stood, raising her hand. The trial was not meant for a human, she said. But today, one has shown us something rare. Kirill stepped forward. Will you let us live now? She asked. The Empress looked at her husband, then at the council, then at the stars above. You may live, she said slowly, but not all agree. Some still want blood. A shadow moved at the edge of the chamber, A new figure entered, tall, armored, burning with hate. It was Prince Sorok, the man Karel was meant to marry. He pointed his blade at James. "This trial means nothing to me," he said. "I claim my right to duel the thief who stole my bride." James looked at Karel. She nodded. "This is personal now," she whispered. James turned to the prince. "I've wrestled bears and broken bones for breakfast," he said. "Let's dance." Asterisk. The chamber shook with the sound of metal. Prince Sorok stepped forward, his armor gleaming like fire. The air around him crackled with heat and hate. His blade hissed with plasma, red and alive. James didn't wear armor like that. He didn't have a high-tech sword or a war title, but he had something else. He had rage, love, and human guts. Karel stood beside the Empress, shouting, "This isn't trial by honor. This is vengeance." The Empress did not speak. The council remained silent. Sorok raised his blade, pointing it at James. "You took what was mine," he growled. "You ruined a 1,000-year pact." James stepped into the center of the arena. "I didn't take anything," he said. "She chose." Sorok rushed forward with a war cry. Their blades clashed, sparks flew, sand kicked into the air. James dodged quickly. Using speed instead of strength, Sorok swung with fury, trained in the art of royal killing. James blocked, rolled, and fought like someone who had once punched a bear in a forest. The crowd gasped. They had never seen a human move like this. Not fast, not polished, but unpredictable and wild. Karel's hands gripped the edge of the railing. Her heart was racing, but not from fear, from something deeper, belief. James ducked under Sorok's next strike and slammed his elbow into the prince's chest. Sorok stumbled back, snarling. "You fight like a beast," he hissed. James grinned. "Thanks." But the fight was just a distraction. Far above the chamber, enemy ships uncloaked from orbit. They weren't part of the Empire. They were loyal to Sorok's secret rebellion. Inside the control tower, a traitor guard sent a signal. "Activate. Ground invasion. Secure the hybrid child." Karel's wristband beeped. She looked up and saw the ships descending. "No," she whispered. "They're not just here for James. They're here for the baby." The Empress turned in shock. "You led him here," she said to her daughter. "I led hope here," Karel replied. "You let war follow it." Explosions rocked the city sky. Fighters swarmed in, dropping pods of soldiers with red symbols. The capital was under attack. Inside the chamber, the floor cracked. Guards rushed in, battling soldiers from Sorok's faction. The arena turned into a battlefield. James grabbed the fallen guard's shock staff and deflected Sorok's strike. "Round 2, he muttered. But Sorok wasn't fighting fair anymore. He raised a wrist device and triggered a sonic pulse. James screamed and dropped to one knee, his ears ringing. Karel leapt down from the balcony, landing between them. With her own blade drawn, "You will not hurt him," she said. Eyes glowing with alien fire, Sorok laughed. "You defend a savage and a mistake." Karel stood tall. "No," she said. "I defend the future." The Empress ordered all loyal guards to evacuate the council. She turned to Karel with desperation. "There's a secret chamber under the city," she said. "Take him, take the child, and go." Karel helped James to his feet. His head still buzzed from the sonic blast. "Tell me we're winning," he said weakly. Karel smiled. "Not yet, but we're not done." As they escaped through hidden corridors, rebel troops chased behind. James tossed small mines from Karel's tech bag, sealing doors behind them. "You're getting good at this," she said. "I learn fast under pressure," he replied. Outside, the planet was chaos. Smoke rose from towers. Civilians ran for shelter, but others, alien citizens inspired by Karel's stand, picked up weapons and joined the fight. "Karel lives," one shouted. "She stands with the human," another yelled. A wave of rebellion swept across the city. Meanwhile, inside the secret chamber, Karel activated an ancient beacon. It projected the baby's DNA, a pattern glowing with two symbols, one alien, one human. perfectly fused. James looked at it and whispered, "That's our child." Kirill nodded, tears in her eyes. "And maybe our last hope." Suddenly the chamber doors burst open. Sorok entered, limping and furious, armor cracked but spirit burning. "You won't escape me," he said. "This child will never rule." But behind him, a loud voice shouted, "You won't touch them again." The Empress entered, flanked by loyal soldiers. She pointed her staff at Sorok. "You have betrayed your empire," she said. "And you are no prince of mine." Sorok roared and charged, but this time, it wasn't James or Kirill who stopped him. It was the Empress herself. With one swift strike, she brought him to the ground. Kirill stood beside her mother. Shocked. "You protected us," she said. The Empress nodded. "Perhaps I've judged humans too harshly." She looked at James. "You showed honor not by winning fights, but by choosing peace." The chamber fell quiet again. The city burned above, but hope had been born below. A child with two worlds inside them, and a chance to rewrite the future. The war had ended, but the sky still carried its scars. Fires dimmed, smoke thinned, and silence returned to the city of towers. Alien citizens stepped out from hiding, staring at the ruins of what once ruled them. They were no longer afraid. They were waiting, deep beneath the palace. Kirill held her child in her arms. The baby's skin glowed faintly, warm with both alien light and human breath. A perfect balance of two species that once stood oceans apart. James stood beside her, watching the small heartbeat in wonder. He had seen storms, monsters, alien warriors, but nothing like this. "This," he whispered, "is what they feared." Kirill nodded. They feared the future. Outside, crowds gathered around the steps of the broken council tower. The Empress stood at the top, wearing simple robes instead of royal armor. She raised her hand. "The empire is no longer ruled by blood," she said, "but by choice." The people listened in silence. Some hopeful, some skeptical, but none looked away. She continued, "My daughter stood against tradition, not to break it but to fix it. And this man," she said, pointing to James, "showed more honor than our highest generals." James stepped into view, holding the child. With Kirill. A whisper swept through the crowd. Some bowed, some cried, and some raised their hands to the sky. Kirill spoke loudly. "This child is not a weapon," she said. "He is not a threat. He is a bridge." That night, stars shined brighter than usual, not because of any cosmic event, but because peace had found a place to land. Weeks passed, rebuilding began. Kirill and James were given a new home near the edge of the high cliffs, a place where the sky met the sea of stars. James planted earth flowers in the red soil. Kirill wrote in her notebook beside him. She wrote words not in her language but in his hope. Begin again, strong hearts. Their child named Solon grew quickly. He spoke early, walked early, and could move objects with his mind before he turned one. But he also laughed easily, hugged tightly, and pointed at every bug like it was magic. James taught him how to throw a ball. Kirill taught him how to respect planets. He was the galaxy's first true hybrid and the universe's smallest ambassador. But not everyone had changed. Far in the cold dark of space, some faction still whispered of revenge. They called the baby dangerous, a symbol of human infection. One day, a message arrived from a rogue fleet. Surrender the child, or war will return. The council panicked. Some demanded the child be sent away to safety. Others wanted to arm the cities. Kirill stood in the middle of the chamber and raised her voice. "We will not hide," she said. "We will not send away what we were meant to protect." James placed Solon on the council table. "Look at him," he said. "He's not the future you fear. He's the future you asked for. You just didn't recognize it." The Empress stood beside them. "We will not bow to fear," she said. "If war comes, we will answer it with unity, not retreat." But war never came. The fleet never fired. Because something had changed across the stars. Other planets began sending envoys. Curious species, once enemies, now asking for talks. They had heard the story of the human and the runaway royal, of a child that wasn't supposed to exist, yet now symbolized something greater. Peace spread like music, slow, soft, but impossible to silence. Years passed. James and Carell watched their son grow, watched him lead without fear, speak without lies, and love without limits. One evening, as the sky turned violet and the moons rose, Carell stood at the same forest edge where she had once crash-landed. She smiled as Solon ran through the trees. James walked up behind her, older now, his beard a little gray. "You still thinking about leaving?" he asked playfully. Carell shook her head. "I was thinking about arriving," she said. "All those years ago." She looked at him. "I never planned to love a human," James laughed. "I never planned to raise an alien prince." They stood together, hands locked, eyes on the stars. Carell leaned in close. "What do you think they'll call us?" James smiled. "Whatever they want," he said. "We know who we are." Behind them, their son's laughter echoed like music, not just through the trees, but through history. The story of a savage man, a runaway alien, and a child who was never supposed to exist, had become the foundation of something new, a future not born from fear, but from fire, a new empire, built not with weapons, but with love.